Matt Bracken is our guest. And again, he's a best-selling author. We'll tell you his website here in a moment. But you've heard me the last 15 minutes, enemiesforeignanddomestic.com. You've heard me here kind of breaking down the current insanity. You cannot make this up. They're so crazy. I know Soros is funding them, but this is over the top. And now we have every day, the New York Times writer today, Vice magazine saying, what a coup looks like. Time to coup Trump. Time to kill Trump. And then nothing's being done. I think they're really organizing and still planning this. So you haven't been on since he was inaugurated. Your predictions have pretty much come true so far. Now that we're post, Trump being in 9 days, he's totally delivering. What do you expect next from the enemy?
Well, the media and their fellow travelers are completely in the blogosphere are 100% virtue signaling for the assassination of Trump. That's what it's about. That's what Madonna said. That's what Ashley Judd basically, that's what they're all saying. Why hasn't he been assassinated yet? So they're sending the message out. They're sending the frequency out to the emotionally unstable that they can be a hero to the left if they just go ahead and kill Trump. Like
we've said before, like fire ants or honeybees, the pheromones being released by Madonna blow up the White House already.
Right, and even during the campaign, I mean, just as a wild example, an English person, a Brit, traveled all the way to, I believe, California, tried to jump the barricade.
It was Nevada. Yeah. He came to kill Trump. He said he was coming to kill him.
But he was somebody who was, the psychologists tend to separate killers into the organized and disorganized. You have to be somewhat organized to get yourself organized all the way from the UK to a Trump rally.
To get a gun,
it's not like he's, slobbering idiot. But imagine how many people a little bit more organized than that are ready to go off. And with the, I think that what I'm calling for next, I call this the SDS to Weather Underground movement, just like in 1968.
I agree. This is Weather Underground Part 2.
Right. When it looked like Hubert Humphrey might come after Lyndon Baines Johnson, this meant that the Democrats would still be in charge of the federal government. That's when Bill Ayers was a leader of the Students for the Democratic Society. But when Nixon came in and, the State Department and other federal agencies were revamped by Republicans, they went paranoid, they went underground, they split into cells. And what happens when these guys split into cells and go underground because they're afraid that, Jeff Sessions is going to have them all rounded up? When they go underground, they become paranoid. They're looking out through the blinds, for
well, by the way, I mean, they should be paranoid, but right now they're really arrogant, openly calling for murder in a crazed mode.
And we can see what happened with the so-called, and I'm using the mainstream media hysteria, the so-called Muslim ban. They can get thousands of people out to airports immediately. I mean, like within hours. So they've got a list
of over 20 million people. Soros has a database of 20 million through Move On, and they hit the button now. And what I've noticed at all these demonstrations is they're led by Muslims. Muslims are leading in this country an insurrection. It's incredible.
Right, and I saw in, I forget if it might have been in Dallas, Fort Worth, but they were doing the call to prayer, the lined up like magnetic filings, towards their cult object over there in Mecca, with the butts in the air, right in American airports. So at any point, they could shut airports down. I mean, so if there's something bigger, and which is where I'd like to kind of talk about Quebec, because I think people are not seeing.
Oh, you mean the attack on the Muslims? They've spun that this is a terror attack on Muslims. Some outlets are even saying because of Trump. No, it's jihadis killing other Muslims. Break it down.
Right, but there's another layer to this. Now, the Daily Beast, you can see what the frequency they're on is. They're totally on receive mode. The Daily Beast actually ran a fake news story showing two white guys like at a rifle range with their names as the shooters. They had to take it down after a couple of hours. So some fake news site puts up, two French-Canadian white guys with guns. Daily Beast has got it running immediately.
Soros could have activated, had millions of people on the street. The burn down of the cities begins.
I think that what happened in Quebec was an abortive false in Quebec City was a FUBAR false flag operation. Typically, suicide jihadists don't do these kind of things like a commando. Omar Mateen didn't wear a black mask and have a getaway plan. The San Bernardino killers didn't wear black masks and have a getaway plan.
No, I get it. If you're going to run a false flag against Muslims, you obviously have Muslims do it, but then they get caught. I noticed they were in tactical gear and covered and ran. They usually kill themselves when it's a real Islamic attack. Well, you're onto something big here. Break this down. Start over. Take your time to break this down.
Yeah, some of the initial reports were that they were using AK-47s, yet there were only, I believe, 6 killed, 8 wounded, something like that. Might be my numbers might be changing as people die in the hospital. An AK-47 loaded with 30 rounds fired into a crowd of people is going to kill and injure a lot more people than that. I put this down to reporters reflexively calling any kind of a semi-automatic rifle an AK-47. I saw somewhere, I couldn't find it again. I should have been taking notes this morning. It might have been actually an SKS or a pair of SKS rifles they were using, which are loaded from a stripper clip with 10 rounds apiece. Several of the reports that I read said that the shooters had to stop and reload frequently. One of the reports that I read said that one of the mosque congregants tried to, assault the ambush, counterattack during a reload, and got shot for it. And no matter what your religion is, if you attack a shooter like that, you are a hero in my book, period. So their plan for a mass attack, like on the level of San Bernardino or Orlando, might have gone off the rails due to their lack of familiarity with the weapons, inability to reload correctly. There were reports they went in and out trying to reload. Finally, they fled. The Alexander Bissonnette, the blue-eyed French-Canadian, possible convert to Islam, I'm thinking that the other guy, Mohammed Kadir, the Moroccan, he might have been planning to use this little kind of like dweeby-looking, the guy with the chess club-looking dude, his Facebook picture with the chess pieces. He might have been planned to be the patsy, the white guy found at the scene. Not sure if he's, already on the radar as a convert or not. So he might have been a secret convert that Mohammed Kadir was going to use as the patsy, the white French Canadian. Then they get away,
it certainly
and the whole
fits
world
in.
Goes crazy.
We got to go to break, Matt Bracken.
Yeah.
We're going to come back and talk more about this straight ahead. Then we're going to look at more of this articles coming out saying, kill Trump. We need a major event. We've got to take action, now. We need to have a coup. What are they going to do next? Because clearly they're arrogant. Look at how Brennan outgoing attacked Trump. They're very arrogant. They're planning something.
So we take you now to an underground bunker deep in the heart of the land of idiocracy.
Well, here we are, folks, at the end of everything. Human civilization as we know it is coming crashing down. The world is over. Donald Trump will be sworn in this week. And then it's all over.
It's all over, guys.
I'm so scared. I'm so alone and so scared.
This can't be real.
We
Please don't be
elected
that.
for the first time someone who is selfish, dishonest, egotistical.
For the first
When
time.
we could have had Hillary Clinton instead. And now we're going to pay the price. We can survive this, okay? We can survive it, but you have to get underground.
Sorry.
And I am at my mom's house where I've been temporarily rooming for the last 31 years.
This guy's
And I'm down in the basement. As you can see, I've made kind of a bunker for myself here in the basement. You've got to get underground now because we don't have a lot of time.
some storable foods.
Look, based on everything that I've read on Facebook, right after the inauguration, Donald Trump is going to drop a nuclear bomb on Mexico. And then after that, the full-scale genocide of women and transgender people and gender non-conforming people will begin.
They're putting on hijabs. They have hijab signs saying solidarity, with Islam. And the men are all walking behind the women, very proud of it. And then we caught it on video. It's just, it's so crazy. And I said, it's like Muslims are running it. And then it turns out the main organizers is a woman who supports Sharia law and calls that the empowerment for women. And the other main organizer is a guy who's tied into Hamas and all this stuff. And you're like, really? How, in what alternate dimension do spoiled, rotten Western women bitch about the cradle of them being spoiled and then want to not join Islam, but like bring it in because it's anti-America or it's anti-Western? I mean, it is just mind-blowing. And look at the women. They kind of have two castes, I've noticed. You know, Bracken's expert on Islam. I just noticed it as a layperson that studies this. Most women are like total slaves. There's always kind of like a house slave woman who's kind of the boss. You'll even see them kind of commanding other women around. When I was there in D.C., I saw this lady at the airport commanding a bunch of men. Let's put her back on screen. It's funny, the Daily Caller talks about how she runs the whole show. I saw her ordering people around. And man, she looks evil. It's like there's a commitment to domination and enslavement. It's just so creepy. It's like watching that husband and wife in Syria getting their little 7-year-old ready to blow herself up. She looks so sad, but they make her do it. I mean, it's just, my gut says, I want to fight that lady. My gut says, that's an enemy right there. Okay, I'm going to do this because people give their lives for the basic freedoms. We're now facing a naked enemy that openly admits it wants to enslave us and kill our president. They tried to kill Nigel Farage 3 times, folks. That's why he got out of politics. And I mean, at least got out of, about to take over Europe. I mean, 3 times they tried to kill him. And that's kind of off the record, but he's talked about it some now, so I can talk about it. But I know the details. He's been told, you shut up or you're dead. Well, he's come back from retirement. He's not shutting up. And his family's like, please, we need you. We haven't had you in 20 years. And I'm not complaining here. Just folks understand, this is a war. They're not in the New York Times, the Washington Post, and in today in Vice magazine saying what would happen within minutes and hours of a coup in America and all these Jezebels calling for Trump's death. They wouldn't be doing this if they hadn't been given a green light. You wouldn't have people like McCain calling for Trump's removal and the former CIA director saying he's despicable, remove him, if they didn't have some powerful people behind them. They've gotten in some rooms. They're all hyped up. The word's gone out. We're taking over. We're going to kill. And you know what? I'm not looking for trouble, but here's the deal. I'm 100% committed. But I want you to talk about that and just all these other angles. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going back to Quebec City. I think it's really important for people to understand something because we just dodged a bullet up there because I'm convinced this was meant to be a major false flag operation.
While they had their people in the streets, while they were activating them?
Yeah, I need to use an analogy, and I don't mean to use this analogy for anything to do with explosives. It's just to understand how this works. If you're setting off a fertilizer bomb, which is, ammonium nitrate and fuel oil, ANFO, you can't throw a match in it. The match will go out. You can't even throw a blasting cap in it. The blasting cap will just blow some ANFO around. You need to have a progression. The match lights the fuse lights the blasting cap, lights a stick of dynamite. That is enough to kick off the ANFO and make the big explosion. What we saw in Quebec City, the way I look at it, it was intended to be one of those booster charges. You need to accelerate the hysteria, the panic.
So it was a misfire.
Yeah, it was a misfire. Exactly. That's why they went from Daily Beast at the crack of dawn this morning showing 2 white French guys with rifles to having to retract it.
They were already primed.
Right. They were primed. And the people were already at the airports. Imagine how easy it would be to shut this country down with people just acting a little bit more hysterical at the airports. The country would come to a halt. So imagine, and this is what we have to, the reason I'm talking about this is next hour or next week, this can happen. And we need people to be tuned in for the likelihood that this will be a false flag operation. And unlike Quebec City, it might be a very successful false flag operation where there's a white patsy, with the smoking AK-47 dead outside the mosque.
By the way, you were saying this from memory. We got to find the tape 6 months ago.
Yeah, it's going to happen where it'll be somebody shooting it from an overpass.
You're right. Their only move is to make themselves the victim. You're absolutely right, Matt. It's not a question of if but when.
While they're already in the streets, because then it'll go from in the streets to doing something that is extremely disruptive, such as storming through airport the airport security, which would absolutely just stop air traffic around.
Which they mean to plunge the stock market with. Soros made moves against the stock market today in conjunction with demonizing Trump. So they're already trying that. In fact, it appears they had it all set with this false flag. You're probably right. And the riots they already had primed for a stock market plunge to blame Trump, but it failed.
Right. And the moment is lost because gradually the new media gets the word out that these 6 countries were just Obama's failed terror states. These are nations like Libya and Sudan and Yemen that we don't, or Somalia. Nobody that's useful to our country comes out of there.
Well, they don't even really have real airports, right? I mean, places like Somalia.
You can't go there and stay alive. If you're a white Christian, you'd be dead or kidnapped in a week. But if this attack in Quebec City had worked, God help us, right now the country would be if let's say 50 Muslims had been killed and there was a blue-eyed Quebecois outside dead, which I think is one of the ways that this scenario was intended to play out. I think that Mohammed Qadir, he's not, I don't see him as the mastermind. It's possible. I see him as, Patsy 1 and Patsy 2, Bissonnette and Qadir. But there's some Dr. Raoul X out there, that's organizing these, and it won't be the last. Believe me, this will not.
Oh, I'm so
be
glad
the
I
last.
got you on because I knew something was fishy. But no, you add how they tried to plunge the stock market this morning, how they put out the fake news, and the site you mentioned is synced with Soros. Yeah, they got caught in a dry run, or it misfired.
I think it was a misfire, and the left will try to just bury the story. I mean, it's amazing. At 10 o'clock, I was just right at the top of the hour, 10 o'clock this morning Eastern. I was flipping between.
That's your other big tell. The fact that they jump on it immediately and then it evaporates show it didn't go the way they wanted.
It just didn't. It's like an unstory, a non-story. If this had been a white guy with an AK-47 dead outside of a mosque with 50 dead Muslims inside, the people that are at the airports now would be shutting the airports down.
And it would legitimize all them out there. Oh, look, Trump supporter goes and does this, but he lived. The dumb mind control or easily influenced idiot lived. And so now it's not, you can see it now. In fact, Matt, you're absolutely right. They absolutely had the whole thing set up.
A lot of times these guys go off at the wrong time. Going back to the Weather Underground, the bomb meant for the Fort Dix Officers Club dance goes off in the townhouse. In this case, I'm not sure, because there are the reports of the Allah Akbar. I'm not sure if Mohammed Qadir had one idea and Bissonnette had another about how it was going to play out. But if you go on Gates of Vienna or Vlad Tepes blog, Rebel Media, which is a Canadian YouTube channel, I'm sure we'll be all over this. We need to look carefully into the Canadian connections. There were apparently 2 competing mosques up there. There's a more radical mosque and a more moderate mosque. The moderate mosque is the one that was attacked.
Sure, that's the way it always is.
This is a classic profile of a false flag. The Bolsheviks set off a bomb at the Mensheviks and blame it on the Russian cadets. You know what I'm saying? You don't.
Sure, they ran false flags against the White Russians.
Right. You don't run a false flag against your own mosque. You run a false flag against the moderate mosque.
Yeah, you kill 2 birds with one stone.
Attacking. Right. You kill 2 birds with one stone.
Plus, it makes it more sympathetic that it's a liberal mosque.
And you wear a mask because they might have recognized you at that mosque. Survivors might have recognized you. So
bottom line, we better, Trump doesn't do the stuff like other people did to scare people. We should be on maximum terror alert right now, but watching for false flags.
Yes, and any knuckleheads on our sides, please don't do anything stupid. If it's a false flag, that's one thing. We'll get to the bottom of it. I'm guessing, just like within our own FBI, regarding the Hillary emails and all of that, up right now in the Canadian Royal Mounted Police, that there is probably a lot of pressure to bury this thing if it looks like it was a false flag, and there will be honest investigators and detectives interrogating this. I think it's the Bissonnette who was that called himself in. Wait, it's going to come out he's being handled by Trudeau, and the federal police. It's going to come out that he's being handled by some foundation group. Bet money we'll hear by tomorrow. It was known a year ago that he was in whatever radical group, but nothing was done. or if he was not in a radical group, if he was secretly radicalized so that he could be used as a throwaway patsy, if he was not a mosque goer, but he just came under the orbit, say, of Mohammed Qadir.
Sure, well, that's the problem with a pure false flag like this is the wind-up toys lose faith, they get cold feet, or things don't go as well because, you know, these patsies are not the sharpest knives.
Right, and the patsy might have even been told, we're just going to go into the backsliding moderate mosque, the apostate mosque, and we're just going to shoot some guns and scare them. He might not have even been prepared to see people killed. But in any event, I would be looking for him to commit suicide in jail. I'd look for him to hang himself from the vent duct, because if he's got a lot of knowledge about his handlers, or any knowledge about handlers above Mohammed Qadir, I would look for him to have a very short life in captivity.
Yeah, he's got that delicate genius look where they think they're so smart. Looks like a classic idiot patsy to me. Why do they all look the same? They got that dumbass look. We'll be right back with Matt Bracken. Matt, you've gotten into this whole false flag and where this is going. I mean, I agree with you. It's got all the telltale signs. Doesn't make any sense. They had their stories all primed. Now it's gone away. You could see that what they were trying with the stock market, with all the demonstrations going on. This is clearly a move to try to tug on heartstrings. I don't see anything they can do succeeding if they don't kill Trump. He's got good generals around him. I know they know what they're up to. They're ready for a coup. They're ready for paramilitary action against him. I'll just obviously leave it at that. The enemy knows that. But Trump's got plans. Boy, they should have got him before he got in. But at the same time, I don't want the president to go into a fortress mentality. But this next few months is critical. What do you think President Trump should do? Because as you said, they're putting out the narrative, the cause celeb that Trump needs to be killed. That way it's plausibly deniable. But I just want people to know, everybody that's been calling for his death, we're going to hold you responsible. And I'm not a vengeful person, but it's not fair in the universe that all these chicken necks and cowards and scum run around calling for violence all day and then not being on the receiving end of it if they start it. So that's all I'm saying is that people are going to get their necks broken here if they pull something.
Yeah, when you look at the so-called Women's March on Washington, and you see the timid little manginas that are basically going along, I just think brainwashing really works. You can brainwash people into hating their European ancestry, like that lady from Idaho at the Democratic retreat that was, saying, I'm here to shut other white people down. You can brainwash men into hating their masculinity, and you can brainwash women into calling themselves a feminist but putting on a hijab in solidarity with people that would sell them in a slave market if they were in charge. The brainwashing really works. And when you have a vertical stovepipe information delivery system, even in a free society, you can get a really insulated mindset where even though it might be
a feedback loop, it's a feedback loop, and they're all being fed this foundation garbage. So they're the susceptible ones. We should feel sorry for them, like they're the ones that were susceptible to the Spanish flu. But then what do we do then to counteract the brainwashing?
Well, the problem, our advantage is that we see their propaganda. We read their organs. We can't help it. It's the mainstream media. So the more that we can get out the new media, the videos like Paul Joseph Watson's makes are absolutely phenomenal.
So it is the info war. The hope is the info war. I want to come back and do 5 more minutes with you.
Also, Milo, people like that. When I talk to millennials, they have no idea what's on CNN, but they know who Milo is, and they know who Paul Joseph Watson are.
Oh, they're rock stars. The salivating, the calls for killing Trump, putting it out into the pheromone ether, kill him, kill him, kill him, blow up the White House. It's getting into a frenzy, and it's only intensifying. These just look like people that want to get knocked down and hurt real bad.
Yeah, sometimes these communist revolutions lose big time. It happened in Finland. It's happened in other places in history.
Indonesia.
And you need to, the people that think that the government is the solution and that the federal law enforcement agents are their hammer and their fist, well, that's over now that Trump is in. And people that think that dressing up like a vagina, is a way to secure political victory, they need to consider how many people go out in the woods, with high-powered rifles, and their hobby is shooting 200-pound mammals and skinning them. they mistake what's happening is the left mistakes our forbearance and our tolerance, a very deep abiding forbearance.
They take our kindness for weakness, and I never know why weak people. I never know why weak people take your kindness for weakness. They don't get it.
They don't get it, and they don't get that. You know, going out in freezing cold weather, and sitting up in a tree for half the night, waiting for a 200-pound mammal to walk along so you can shoot it, turn it into meat, and stick it in the freezer. These are not the kind of people you want to absolutely have lose it. And if Trump was assassinated, millions of people, like I just described, would absolutely lose it. And there's the old, there's the old adage, think globally, act locally. Within your own.
Oh, they start a civil war. People are going to be acting locally really bad.
Right, and we know from the last 10 or 15 years that there's nobody on earth that can stop lone actors. There used to be an army. By the way,
within 48 hours, all the police are going to evacuate and not support these globalists. They should know that.
Especially if the people that are pulling triggers don't even tell their families or anybody. They just go out. I have this kind of scenario in my first novel, Enemies Foreign and Domestic. If you've just got a target list that if this ever happened, this is what I would do. And the next thing you know, people are starting to get shot. I hope that this doesn't happen.
No, I mean, it's unfortunate, but if they want to have a George Soros takeover and lock us up and kill us and stuff, if they ask for it, they just don't know. It's people been ready for 20 years. I mean, right. we're hoping for peace. We elected Trump. We want to fix things. But, I mean, and I'm not planning anything myself. I just know what's going on. I really feel sorry for him, quite frankly.
They can shut down traffic in cities. They can blockade a highway. They can cause mayhem at airports. Maybe they can crash the stock market. But in the end, it's the red county states where the food comes from. It's where the energy
we've already occupied and conquered the country. We've already occupied.
I often say, to liberals, how much food do they grow inside the Beltway? Because if that food conveyor is ever shut off, it'll be hard times for everybody.
Matt, I want to get you back this week to talk about the worst case scenarios, maybe Friday for 2 hours, if they do pull a coup and try to come arrest the Patriots as they had planned under Obama's mentor. What do people do? We've got to talk about emergency plans. Thank you, sir.